Hey Wizards, now recently I've been doing a bunch of rifle and suppressor reviews, and there's been a concept that keeps coming up like a whole lot recently, and maybe you guys are already aware of this, but it kept coming up from multiple different people in multiple different conversations across, even unrelated conversations to what we're talking about. And that idea that I really wasn't aware of was that suppressors actually increase accuracy. And every time that idea would come up in a conversation, I would kind of be like, is that actually true? But the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, yeah, I think I also had more accuracy and consistency across my groups that I've done and the testing that I've done when I've actually used a suppressor. But it also made me think on a whole nother level of like YouTube reviewer, like is it kind of disingenuous to use a suppressor in a gun review, knowing that it's gonna add just a little bit to the accuracy? I tell you what, the whole idea makes me super curious. So tell you what, today we'll test it and answer the question, does a suppressor actually make your platform more accurate? Like, is a suppressor just gonna make all guns better, or is it more complicated than that? Like, is barrel length at play or other variables? Even talking to our guys on Discord, they were all in different camps of what exactly is causing it, but there was a general consensus like, yeah, it does improve overall accuracy. So we'll find out what we get across all of our platforms in our testing, but first, we gotta do the sponsor thing. And it's cloudy out, and I don't wanna have to change the brightness every other frame, so you're probably gonna get a lot of B-reels today. Today's video was sponsored by HRT Tactical Gear. HRT provides industry-leading team-based products such as the L-back to give you a load-bearing carrier solution, along with their entire arc belt suite to give you the best the entire tactical world has to offer, from medical to their top-tier mag pouches. And I know I keep teasing you with it, but I really will bring you some content on the new HRT plate carrier and arc belt that they teased over at SHOT Show, so keep an eye out for that. And as always, you can use discount code TLDco on anything over on the HRT website. So big thanks to HRT for always giving us so much love and for helping to supply the ammo we're using for all of our testing today. Now, we gotta do this part with my biases. This is kind of weird because we're really just doing testing today. So interestingly, my biases are kind of nothing. We're just gonna pull some raw numbers and the numbers are what they are. I guess I am sort of biased towards the Griffin PSR. I am rooting for this guy a bit because I do love this one. But it is thanks to our Patreon supporters that we can test all this and say and do whatever we want. Like, we can say which one we like, which one we didn't. We can get any results we want without having some brand manager somewhere that we have to answer to. So if you like our more unfiltered style, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter so we can keep this entire thing here we do at TLD all crowdfunded. Now with that though, also, don't take anything that I say or any other YouTuber says as gospel. We're gonna mix this part up a bit because for this testing, I'm sure I'm gonna mess something up, and this is really just a sample size of one. So I really am hoping that you guys are gonna comment down below, share your thoughts too, so we can get a lot more data as to if this actually does something, or if maybe whatever results I get are kind of skewed. So do your own research also, so you can be the most educated consumer possible. All right, that's enough screwing around. Let's get to the exact platforms, go over what we have so that maybe you can help me decipher what exactly is going on with some of the results we get. For our first setup, we have our Griffin 14.5 pin and welded with the Paladin brake, chambered in 5.56. I'm using a Primary Arms GLX 1-6 Griffin LPVO on a Reptilia mount. Now, normally I love shooting with the ACSS chevron and like that whole Griffin reticle, but I will do a little bit of foreshadowing that I did think the chevron made shooting groups a little bit more challenging. Plus, I'm really starting to learn to hate LPVOs because they don't have any sort of parallax adjustment where both the other scopes they're both big boy scopes. For the lower, we use the standard Griffin Mark II because it's amazing, but we have the Kung Fu Grip ELF SE trigger and the new Magpul DT stock. For the bipod, I put on an Arca clamp and we use the Warren Skyline Precision bipod. The can we'll be using on this setup is the Optimus 6 that we showed in our previous testing video also. The next setup is one we've done a ton of optics testing on, and it's our 18-inch Criterion Core 5.56 build. This is using a Dead Air Landtac Dragon muzzle device and a Zerotech 4-16 scope with the LR Hunter reticle. That thing is just phenomenal. We have the Magpul furniture it came with, but I did put in a 2-stage Rise iconic trigger to get a little bit extra precision and accuracy. I have to say that 2-stage iconic trigger was definitely a shining spot for me when we did the actual testing, and we do have a discount code for those if you want to pick one of those up. It's TLDco over on the Rise website, and it definitely made our Criterion Core setup even more nutty. Now for the bipod, we're using a pick rail segment and a B&T B8 bipod with some upgraded feet just so those legs don't rotate. The suppressor on the setup is the Dead Air Sandman K with the e-brake on the end. This Criterion setup has been used in almost all of our optic testing videos because it's so insanely accurate, but also so ridiculously consistent. Like, it doesn't matter what course of fire we actually do. So it's gonna be very interesting, and it's gonna make for a really good platform when we take the suppressor on and off and see what different results we get. For our last platform is our 18-inch Stellar Arms Executive and 6mm arc. For our muzzle device, we have a Griffin over-the-barrel Paladin muzzle device. The optic is the EOTech 3-18 Voodoo in the Horus reticle in the ADM QD mount. Here we're using the bootleg BCG to control gas, but we have the same ELF SE trigger as our Griffin 14.5. For furniture though, we crank things up a bit and have the MDT Vertical Grip Elite and the B5 Precision stock. Now I wanna say just how fantastic the MDT grip and the B5 Precision stock are. I can configure them exactly to me, like change the angle of the grip and get the riser just perfect for me. And combining that with the 6mm arc cartridge, I think we're gonna see some pretty stupid stuff today. But if you are ever on the fence about the B5 Precision stock, just know for me, it's absolutely awesome. One of our viewers actually recommended it to me, so J Murph, you are absolutely spot on. That stock is awesome. But looking along the bottom, we have the Area 419 Universal Arca Rail and B&T Cal Gen 2 bipod. The Cal is a bit wider than the B8, so it does seem a lot more stable. And the can we'll be testing on the Executive is the Griffin PSR 7. I'm also gonna test some different ammo too, so we'll just use some garbage M93 55 grain on the 14.5 Griffin. Our S&B 77 grain we've used for all of our optics testing in the past on the Criterion that I know it loves, and the 108 grain Hornady ELD in the Executive. Now, for the testing, the first thing I did with all of these is I zeroed them all at 50 yards, and then we moved out to 100 yards. Now, what I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna re-zero them when we take the cans on and off, so you will see some POI shift. We're just not gonna focus on that because we're gonna worry about the group size, not necessarily where it moves to, because we're gonna see some sort of shift. Now, for all this though, I kept all the same bipods, all the same ammo, pretty much all the same everything. I even tried to use the same magazines. So we're just gonna see what happens when we take the cans on and off. So let's get to it and test everything. I'm gonna watch the actual shooting with you guys and give you my comments in kind of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 style as I'm trying to shoot some of these groups. I'm also realizing some of you people out there may not know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is, and yeah, that makes me pretty sad. Oh, one more thing also, I did not use the trigger cam. I would have had to move them around. Every single optic would have been a total pain anyway. But it also kind of messes with your eye relief and your view and everything else. I wanted to remove as many variables as possible, so I didn't use that. So no, I'm not cheating in any way. It's just, I think it would have made the testing worse. It would throw in another weird variable anyway. All right, let's just get started with our Griffin 14.5. I'm gonna aim at the bottom of the left circle first, and this is with the Optimus 6 can, so let's see what we get on our first shot. That's pretty high, just having zeroed. Let's see what shot number 2 gives us. Oh, it's definitely a wide open group. Was that turkeys? All right, shot number 3. Similar to number 2, I hear the turkeys. And shot number 4 is off the target. It's way over there to the left. Good Lord, the first group was pretty bad, and maybe I should have used the 13.9 I have downstairs since I know that barrel is actually pretty accurate. But whatever, we're gonna keep going. Data is data. Also, I didn't comment on this. It's windy when I'm out here recording this part today, but it wasn't out at the range. It was a total dead day. So when you're seeing some different deviations in some of the rounds, it's not from any of the weather at all. We had one go off the chart, so the 3 shots were 2.64 MOA, but I'm gonna mark it as like 4.5 MOA because that group was not good. It's not like I was sitting there and then just suddenly yanked so far over that now I'm not even aiming at the target anymore. That just didn't happen when I was shooting. Now though, did I bring my Garmin Zero Chrono? Yes. Did I turn it on? No. And that's gonna be super annoying because it probably would have answered a lot of questions as to what exactly is going on here, but it's fine. It's fine. All right, let's see what the Criterion can do with the dead air can. So same as before, we're gonna aim at the bottom of the left circle. So hopefully aiming at a smaller target can give us some better results. So we're not just shooting all over the place, but let's see what we can get on our very first group. All right, first shot is pretty much where I expect it to be. I love how we can still hear the turkeys. So let's see what second shot gives us. Oh, right on top of the first one. So I think we're seeing some good accuracy with the can so far. Let's see what we get on third shot. Widens up a little bit. Not crazy bad results at this point, but I am interested to see what we get on the fourth shot and rounding out this group. Not so bad. I think that's okay. That was a far more acceptable 1.11 MOA. I've shot better, but at least they're all on paper this time. All right, now for my personal favorite with the 6mm arc and our PSR7. You guys already know where I'm aiming at, so I'm very curious to see what happens with the can here. First shot, very similar to the Criterion. That's kind of where I would expect with the 50-yard zero. So let's see what we get on our second shot. Oh, right on top of the first one. So I think the can, I can't say it's hurting anything, that's for sure. Let's see what we get on shot number 3. Oh, very good group yet again. If the can is improving accuracy, then I'm very happy with this right now. What do we get on number 4? A little bit widened out, but not bad again. That's a very impressive group. In the end, that one turned out pretty good at 0.89 MOA and very similar to the results that I've been getting in the past. All right, on to round 2 with the Optimus 6 and the Griffin. Let's see what this thing can do. This time I'm going to aim on the right circle on the bottom. So hopefully we can see a little bit better results. Maybe get everything on paper this time. All right, what do we get for our first shot? High and to the right, which is not confidence inducing as we were high and to the left before, but let's see what we get on the second shot. Okay, we're over to the left again. I'm not quite sure the can is doing much for accuracy at all. I mean, not compared to the others, that's for sure. All right, shot number 3. Way up high in the target area. That's great. That group's going to be fantastic. And let's see what we get for number 4. Back by shot number 2. Once again, not a fantastic group. I don't think the can's doing much here. And at least all the rounds were somewhat on the paper this time, but it was a pretty lackluster 3.16 MOA. I mean, it's federal 55 grain, pretty much poop ammo, but even then, that group is pretty lackluster. Thankfully, though, we're back on the Criterion, so this one can show off again. Same as before, we're going to aim at that right circle along the bottom. First shot. A little bit to the right, but at least we're not getting any crazy flyers like we're getting with the Griffin. Shot number 2. Ooh, stacking them. I have to say, the accuracy is not bad with the can on, that's for sure. Shot number 3, that is crazy. So 3 of those stacked right on top of each other. That is fantastic out of a 5.56 gun. Let's see if we can bring it home. Shot number 4. And nope, I choked on that one.
I didn't do that.
Well, hey, at least it wasn't me, though. Well, that's at least a far more respectable group at 1.3 MOA. I'll say with the Criterion, at least all the rounds are on the paper. Now, I'm not getting spectacular groups with their can on, but at least it's staying consistent, and that's kind of what I expected out of the Criterion, and hopefully that'll give us some good data when we take the suppressor off and can compare the 2 different sets of groups. All right, let's see what we can get with our 6 arcs, see if we can redeem ourselves. Again, aiming at the right side bottom of the circle. Let's see if we can get on our first shot. All right, good shot. Let's just see what we get for groups. I'm really interested to see what having the can on does. Second shot. Right on top of the first. I can't say the can is hurting accuracy, that's for sure. All right, shot number 3. Oh my word. So that's 3 shots stacked on top of one another. Let's see if I choke yet again for shot number 4. Oh, it's still fantastic.
That's the group I was looking for.
Well, that's just insane, and we ended up with a 0.59 MOA group for that spread. For our final suppressed numbers, we have 3.8 MOA with the Griffin, 1.2 with the Criterion, and 0.75 MOA with our 6mm arc setup. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good starting point. Both the Criterion and the Executive have 2 groups that are very close to one another. So hopefully when we take the cans off, we can see some pretty clear deviations. So let's take off the cans, do this whole thing again. All right, Griffin, I got the can off you now, and no excuses. Aiming at the bottom of the bottom circle. I'm hoping... Oh, once again, I didn't change the 0 or anything, so this shift may be extreme. First shot, yeah, that's pretty high. Significantly higher than it even was before. So hopefully at least everything's gonna stay on paper because I'm aiming at the center. Let's go for the second shot. I think the same spread of the groups. I'm not really seeing much difference in suppressed or unsuppressed. Shot number 3. Yeah, I think not having the can on was significantly worse for that one. Let's see shot number 4. Back by the first shot, so yeah, it's even more inconsistent without the can. Well, that's significantly worse at 5.6 MOA, so that's certainly a result, but man, that is not great. All right, now the Criterion with only the Land Tech Dragon muzzle device. Same as the other ones. We're gonna aim at the bottom of the circle. I've told you guys this multiple times. Also, I'm not going to re-zero, so we're gonna see what we get for a POI shift. Okay, high and to the left. So that's very interesting. I don't know if I would have expected that much of a shift, but we'll see what we're gonna get with round number 2 and see if it at least tightens up the group and stays what it was in the first set. Shot number 2. I don't think it's there. I think it's widening up significantly from the first set. Definitely doesn't seem like we're stacking rounds anymore. Let's see what we get. Shot number 3. Okay, well, at least number 3 was in the same spot as number 2, but still quite the spread. Let's see what we get. Shot number 4. Did I just shoot a flyer? Oh, shot number 4. Yeah, that first one was just way off, and I really at this point want to go reshoot that one, but you know what? What we get is what we get. It just is what it is. Everybody only gets 4. That's the way life works. Yeah, life isn't fair. Keep moving on. Now, I did reshoot that last shot, but it doesn't count. The group was a natural 2.3 MOA and again had a larger spread between group 1 and group 2 like we saw in the Griffin. So we are seeing some results. I think every gun so far has shot a little bit worse. So same as this with the 6 ARC. This is just with the PSR Paladin break. Let's see what we get on first shots. Good bit of POI shift, which is interesting because one of the main things about the PSR 7, they kind of talk about how it's got very little POI shift. I think the Dead Air actually had a little bit less. But let's see what we get in terms of group. This thing has been absolutely crazy, so I'm expecting to get something nutty. Oh, that's a click. Okay, so on that BCG, that's the bootleg. I didn't go back and change it to the unsuppressed setting, so it's basically semi-auto right now. All right, shot number 2. Ooh, that group opened up. I'm worried that me not having the look at it again, that bolt carrier group set up correctly is messing up the group, but we'll see. Shot number 3. See, I'm figuring out what exactly happened right there, but shot number 3 is still pretty wide. I'm still setting everything up correctly in the same way, but I'm not.
So we're gonna do 1 shot at a time.
I'm not getting great groups. Yeah, I just be commenting on me shooting semi-auto. Last shot though. Nope. It's just.
That group sucks.
That about covered it. It's not the same as we were getting with the suppressor for sure. Well, that certainly opened up a lot. And we got a 1.83 MOA group with the executive, which is a pretty crazy change in terms of accuracy all of a sudden. I want to note here that we're seeing more than a 1 MOA change, which I think is pretty crazy when we're not seeing all that much difference across the other 2 platforms. So I don't quite know why that's seeing such an improvement. But tell you what, let's do one more round of this and see what data we get. All right, Griffin, with no can, this is your Redeemer round. I'm gonna aim at the bottom of the center circle because this thing's shooting so high and I'm getting a lot of POI shift. So let's see what we get now. First shot. Okay, high and to the left, almost off the target. So we're getting a lot of movement to the left all of the sudden, which is very interesting. Let's see what we get. Shot number 2. More towards the center, so that's good. These groups are just not great, and I think adding a can or removing it, you're just not gonna make it suddenly better. But let's see what we get. Number 3. Not half bad. At least we're splitting the difference between the two now. But yeah, I think maybe if a can does improve what you can shoot, it can only do so much. It does seem to be one of the better groups at shooting so far. Shot number 4, it's okay, but at least they're all together this time.
That target. That ammo sucks.
That about covers it. All right, well, that was the best group of the day out of the Griffin with 2.71 MOA, but there's just such a wild spread between the two groups. That's crazy. All right, though, last round with the Criterion, we saw a good bit of opening up on the last round. Oh, this is my POA where I'm aiming. But I think there was a flyer on the last one. First round looks good. At least we're center. We're not getting any left and right, so maybe I'm not doing anything dumb this time, which I'm happy about. Let's see what we get. Shot number 2. Not too bad. Just a little bit underneath the first shot. I think that's still going to be a pretty good group. Probably still sub MOA at this point. Shot number 3. Probably the same distance between 1 and 2. I don't think it's as tight a groups as it was with the can, that's for sure. Like, looking to the left and right, those just look like cleaner shots. But let's see what we get. Shot number 4. Pretty good. Not half bad. That's probably one of the better groups because the other ones have a few flyers, but still, I think the other ones are tighter when the shots are together. Actually, though, looking at the numbers, that group was far more impressive than I thought and actually managed to beat the 6 arc with the 0.86 MOA group. That is actually pretty crazy. I am very happy with that. All right, last group for the day with the no can executive. I did fix the BCG, so it's now going to cycle correctly and should be some better groups because I won't get on and off the gun every time. First shot looks pretty good. There's no real left or rights, so we'll see what we get. Shot number 2, but that first group really opened up. All right, though, let's see second shot. Wow. Okay. So suddenly, with taking the can off, we're now not getting the groups we were getting a moment ago, where they were absolutely crazy. We're seeing quite the spread between all the shots now. But let's see what we get. Shot number 3. Split the difference again, which is interesting, but just not getting that insane level of consistency we were getting with the PSR7. Like, you know, does that can make you more accurate? At this point, look at those groups, I have to say yes. But what do we get? Shot number 4. It's okay. Nothing great here. I mean, it got a little bit worse, but now we're only at 1.9 MOA. Interestingly, it's just 0.1 from my previous group, and you can see how consistent it is both with and without a can, which I think is a little bit nutty. Now, looking at the data, I think it's very interesting because we do see an improvement in consistency and accuracy, but it's not the same improvement. In fact, it's kind of all over the place. And that's the part I don't really understand. Like on the Griffin, the difference is kind of marginal, like 8.5%, like maybe nothing. Yet the Criterion is almost 26%, and the difference on the executive with the PSR7 is a whopping 87%. At this point, looking at the data and thinking through it, I am conceding that yes, there is an improvement when you add in a can. And then we go into the next question of, is the improvement more than the margin of error of the shooter? And I think in most cases, yes. I think the bit that the suppressor is adding for sure is more consistency. Like if you get a flyer, it's just not quite as wild or doesn't go out quite as far when you have the can installed. The more I think about it, I think that makes sense too. Like you're adding a little bit more velocity, you're shielding it just a little bit from the elements, and you're taking away some of the volatility of the gases expanding around the bullet. So all those things kind of in tandem, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense that it's gonna give you just a little bit of an edge than not having it. I also want to say just my own thoughts that shooting with the suppressor makes me absolutely a better shooter. I can tune the gas better and make a flatter, more pleasant shooting system that makes follow-up shots just a breeze, and it makes shooting just overall far easier and more fun. The interesting bit from our data though is that adding a can give you a little bit of improvement, a lot of improvement, or none at all. And I think we do need more data to glean a lot more information as to what exactly is going on and what is the actual improvement. Like the 6mm arc, even in the review, I did shoot sub MOA with this without the can installed, but was that one group the outlier of everything else? That part, I don't know. Looking at why a can improves one system so much more than the other has me a little bit confused, but there are a few pieces that we can rule out. Like some folks say stage 2 and stage 1 triggers make a big difference, but the Griffin 14.5 and the Executive use the same ELF SE trigger. And since there was such a huge disparity in improvement with the can, I think we can rule out the trigger. The Criterion didn't see the huge increase the Executive saw, but they both use the same 18-inch barrel, so I don't think barrel length had a huge impact either. Our viewers in Discord did have a theory and mentioned some videos that they saw about barrel harmonics, and the Criterion Core profile and the Ballistic Advantage 6mm arc barrel could be designed very differently, and that could explain why we're seeing some differences between those two barrels with the profiles and how they're put together. The Criterion just overall doesn't seem to care about what you do to it. It's just gonna shoot well. You can add a can, you can take off a can, you can shoot it cold, you can shoot it hot, and I don't know if that's just a feature of the Criterion Core barrels itself, but yeah, it's just insanely consistent with whatever the heck you're doing to it. Now, one question I wasn't able to rule out and it kept nagging at me. Does a high flow through or a different can design, is that what's impacting how much it's going to give you an improvement in terms of accuracy and consistency? So it bothered me so much, I went out to the range again. I also wanted to rule out this optic coming loose or something, so I tightened it all down and reshot with the Dual Lock 5 can instead, since it's very similar in shape and design to the PSR-7. And guess what? Nope. These groups were still really bad. Even swapping to the better 77 grain, I could only get the group average down to the same no can 4.1 MOA. So I don't think design really came into play. Like there wasn't any difference in the Dual Lock 5 versus the Optimus 6. So I don't think flow through or standard baffles are what is the smoking gun in making some suppressors make some platforms more accurate. But I think the why it's going on is a lot less important than this question. Do you, as the viewer, after seeing some of the data that we've shown, do you find a reviewer who's using a suppressor a little bit more disingenuous in the data they're showing you, knowing that that suppressor is adding a little bit to the accuracy, or do you consider it kind of the same as that reviewer shooting with just match grade ammo versus poo-poo ammo? Like we see that all the time. Most people out there at home aren't going to be shooting $3 a round ammo, but your reviewer may use that for his testing to show you the accuracy. So I'm very curious as to what you think, or if you even care at all. And I'm personally so interested because, like in this exact situation, I could game the 6mm arc Executive review pretty hard by using that suppressor and showing sub MOA groups when without it, on that particular day, it shot sorta okay. I just thought the results were very, very interesting, and it made me really kind of feel like most accuracy testing is kind of a scam. Like, am I wrong? If I can just shop around for the right ammo and suppressor combination and make anything look great. But like I said, I'm more curious what you all think. For me, I'm just not gonna put much weight in the accuracy tests at all, kinda knowing what I learned in the testing we did today. But ultimately, I think we got enough data to answer the question. Does adding a suppressor improve your accuracy? Yes. It's just a question of how much. It could be anywhere from nothing at all the way to an absolute ton. Beyond the accuracy though, adding in a suppressor makes the whole shooting experience more pleasant, which makes the shooter calmer, which I also think more directly translates into better groups and tighter groups also. So yeah, we went through all this, and now Wizards, I recommend just getting a can and running some cheat codes. So I'm very curious what you all say, but I hope this video testing whether or not suppressors actually improve accuracy was helpful in your purchasing decisions. And I want to say thanks to all of our YouTube and Patreon members. It's thanks to you we can go out and test this and come back and tell you what we actually found out and talk to you guys on Discord, maybe try to decipher how to maximize that. And I want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below the biggest increase you've ever seen by adding in a can. Like, did you see the 1 MOA like I've seen? I thought that was a little bit nuts. I want to hear about it. All right, everyone, Walsh out. I do want to say, like, the results were super interesting. Did everybody know about this besides me, that cans add accuracy? I did also want to say, when I was doing all the testing, like, you can see a lot of deviating shots. I was basically bench resting that thing. Like, everything's on a bipod. I have everything on a rear bag. I'm just putting basic pressure in there. And the only place I'm even touching the gun is to just pull the trigger. So seeing those wide deviations left and right and up and down, that would be very difficult for me to do. So yeah, that was very weird. Okay, videos after this. Oh, I got some super secret gear. I still can't talk to you about it because we're still a little bit in advance, but really cool gear that just came out that I think everyone's gonna be excited about. I'm really excited to show it all to you, and there's gonna be a whole setup. We're gonna do some cool stuff all summer long. I am very, very excited about it, and we're gonna do some more stuff with, I think Agilite has some secret stuff coming out, along with talking some more about our competition belt setup, going over that. So a lot of fun stuff happening this summer. I'm gonna go enjoy the day. But yeah, thanks everybody. You guys are great. I love working with you guys all, and make sure to come in on our live chats on Thursday if you want to chat with us more. Also come on Discord. We're getting a great community, and we do a lot of games and hanging out on Saturday nights if you want to come join us. Just do silly stuff. Okay, I'm just rambling here at the end. I gotta go. Bye.